My beloved children, I am standing with you now at the edge of a quiet village road, where the air is warm and smells faintly of wet earth and jasmine. The cicadas are humming, and somewhere nearby, bare feet press gently against red soil that still remembers yesterday's rain. Before I begin, tell me, where are you listening from tonight? And what hour does your clock whisper to you right now? The story I am about to share unfolds in this very breath, in this very moment, carried on the slow rhythm of devotion and time. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's gently ease into tonight's storytelling journey together. It is the year 1979, in a small village outside Chiang Rai, northern Thailand, where the mountains hold the sky a little closer and the mornings arrive wrapped in mist. At dawn, a man named Samchai steps out of his wooden stilt house, his feet already hardened by decades of walking barefoot across fields and narrow paths. He is 32 years old then, with shoulders broad from farm work and eyes that still soften easily when he smiles. Inside the house, his wife Molly coughs softly, the sound thin and apologetic, as if she is sorry to take up space in the air. They married in 1972 during the rainy season. The wedding was simple: banana leaves, borrowed bowls, laughter mixed with thunder. Molly was known in the village for her gentle hands and a laugh that came easily even when rice was scarce. Samchai loved that laugh first, then the way she never spoke badly of anyone, not even those who hurt her. Love, in those days, was not something they spoke about often. It lived in actions, extra portions of rice, a lantern lit late into the night. Waiting. In 1978, the sickness came quietly. At first, it was only fatigue. Molly would sit down more often while washing clothes by the river. Then her legs began to tremble, especially in the evenings. The local healer said it was exhaustion, maybe a spirit imbalance. But by early 1979, she could no longer walk without pain. One morning, as the sun climbed over the hills, she collapsed near the doorway, her body folding as if the ground had suddenly called her name. The nearest hospital was in Chiang Rai town, more than 20 kilometers away. There was no car, no bus that reached their village. That morning, Samchai did not hesitate. He bent down, slid his arms beneath Molly's knees and back, and lifted her. She protested weakly, embarrassed, her face burning with shame at being carried like a child. But Samchai only adjusted his grip and said, "Close your eyes. We'll be there soon." That was the first day. The doctors later said it was a severe spinal condition, worsened by years of labor and untreated infection. Surgery was discussed, but the cost was more money than Samchai had ever seen. Treatment would help, they said, but she might never walk again. Samchai nodded, his face calm, his hands steady. Inside, something settled, not despair, but resolve. From that year on, Samchai carried Molly. He carried her from bed to doorway each morning so she could feel the sun. He carried her to the river so she could wash her face and watch the water move. When she needed to go back inside, he lifted her again, his breath slow, his movements careful. The villagers watched at first with curiosity, then with quiet respect. Some whispered that such devotion would fade. Life was hard. Time wore everyone down. But the years kept passing, and Samchai kept carrying her. In 1985, when the dirt road was finally extended closer to the village, Samchai carried Molly on his back to the market once a week. She would wrap her arms around his shoulders, her cheek resting between his shoulder blades. He would stop often, not because he was weak, but because he wanted her to see things, to smell grilled bananas, to hear children bargaining loudly, to feel alive beyond the walls of their home. There were days when his muscles burned and his knees shook. In 1992, after a particularly bad monsoon season, Samchai fell ill with fever. For 3 days, he could barely stand. Molly cried quietly at night, blaming herself for his pain. On the 4th morning, Samchai rose, still pale, and carried her outside anyway. "If I rest too long," he said gently, "my legs will forget what love feels like." Time carved lines into his face. His hair thinned, then turned gray. Molly's body grew lighter, not only from illness, but from age. By 2000, they had been living this way for over 20 years. Journalists came once, then left. Donations were offered and politely refused. Samchai accepted help when it came naturally, but he never asked. One evening in 2008, as the sun sank behind the hills, Molly rested her head against his chest and whispered, "If I had known this life awaited you, I would have let you go." Samchai did not stop walking. He simply answered, "If I had let you go, I would have lost my life long ago." That night, the cicadas sang louder than usual, and the village seemed to hold its breath. The 40th year had not yet arrived, but it was already approaching, step by step, carried on 2 aging legs that had never once turned away. The 40th year arrived quietly, the way all meaningful things do, without announcement. It was 2019, early March, when the dry season softened the mornings and the dust along the road outside Chiang Rai lay pale and still. Samchai was 72 now. His steps were slower, but they were steady, measured by decades of knowing exactly how to place his feet so the weight on his back would never jolt, never startle. Molly was 69. Her hair had thinned to a silver softness, her hands lighter than before, resting like folded leaves against his chest whenever he carried her. On the morning of March 14th, 2019, Somchai lifted Molly from the bed, as he always did. The house had not changed much since the early years. Same wooden floor, polished smooth by time, same low window facing east. Outside, a neighbor's rooster crowed late, confused by the heat. Molly smiled faintly and said, "It smells like rain, even though it isn't coming." Somchai nodded. He had learned long ago that the weather Molly spoke of was often memory, not sky. They walked to the small clearing near the tamarind tree, a place they had visited almost every day since 1983. It was there Molly liked to watch the road, to see people pass and imagine their stories. Somchai lowered himself carefully, letting her sit for a while on a woven mat. His knees protested, sending sharp reminders through bone and muscle. But he welcomed the pain, the way one welcomes an old acquaintance, without fear, without resentment. In April of that year, a young schoolteacher from Chiang Rai town heard about them and came with her students. They did not bring cameras at first. They brought fruit, water, quiet curiosity. The children asked Somchai how he had managed for so long. He looked at Molly, then back at them, and answered simply, "You do not carry years. You carry one moment, then another." On May 2nd, 2019, Molly's breathing changed. It grew shallow, then uneven. The clinic nurse visited and sat with them under the same tamarind tree. She spoke softly, explaining what Somchai already knew in his bones. That night, Somchai carried Molly to bed and lay beside her on the floor, his hand resting on her ribs so he could feel each breath arrive and leave. Just before dawn, as the village stirred faintly, Molly opened her eyes. She did not speak. She only lifted her hand as much as she could. Somchai leaned close. Her fingers brushed his cheekbones gently, then fell still. The room did not darken. The birds did not stop singing. Love, when it leaves, does not take the world with it. Somchai stayed where he was until the sun touched the window frame. The funeral took place 3 days later at the village temple. People came from nearby towns, some walking, some arriving quietly on motorbikes. The monks chanted as incense curled upward, thin and patient. Somchai stood through most of it, though a chair was offered. When it was over, he bowed low, his back curved, not with defeat, but with gratitude. In the months that followed, Somchai kept his routines. He still woke before sunrise. He still swept the floor. Sometimes he walked to the tamarind tree alone and sat there, listening. When asked how he was, he answered honestly, "I am lighter now, but not empty." In December 2019, a bench was placed near the road, beneath the tamarind tree. It bore no long inscription, only a small wooden plaque carved by a neighbor's son. Read, "Here, love rested." Samchai lived 2 more years. On his last morning, in August 2021, he asked to be helped outside. He sat facing the road, the way Molly once had. When the sun warmed his hands, he closed his eyes and smiled. "Now, my beloved children, let the pace slow. Let the images soften the red road, the silver hair, the steady steps fading into light. Remember this, love is not measured by strength alone, nor by how loudly it speaks, but by how faithfully it stays. Carry one another gently, walk with patience, and when your legs grow tired, let kindness be what holds you upright. Blessed are those who love without counting the cost, for their steps echo far beyond the road they walk. Rest now in peace, in trust, in the quiet knowing that love never truly lays its burden down. Amen.